They wouldn't have been caught by the US if they hadn't liked this Iraqi food called mass goof. For 32 weeks, the US Army tried every possible way, but there was no news of Saddam Hussein, the former president of Iraq. Not only was the US military working day and night on this mission, but the US Special Forces, CIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, National Security Agency, and FBI also played a big part. Thousands of people from these agencies were searching for just one person, Saddam Hussein. What was the threat that America saw in this person, and how did they finally find Saddam Hussein hiding in a grave 6 feet underground? Welcome back to Infallible Media Videos. This story begins after the 9/11 attacks in the US when Al-Qaeda attacked New York and Washington, D.C. The world saw America's anger at this event. At that time, American President George Bush decided that anyone who supported terrorism would be targeted. Although Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq at that time, wasn't directly involved in 9/11s, America believed he supported various terrorist groups indirectly. However, this wasn't enough to attack Iraq on its own. It was confirmed that the US wanted to end Saddam Hussein's rule in Iraq, where he had been in power for the past 24 years. Therefore, to remove Saddam Hussein's government and attack Iraq, the US needed a strong reason. For this, America claimed that Saddam Hussein had hidden weapons of mass destruction (WMDs), including nuclear weapons, in Iraq. Based on this claim, America attacked Iraq in March 2003. The US military was joined by the militaries of the UK, Australia, and Poland, who fought their way to Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, in just 3 weeks. On the very first day of the attack on Iraq, President Saddam Hussein went into hiding, and when the American military reached Baghdad, they found no trace of Saddam Hussein. US tanks and troops occupied Baghdad and ended Saddam Hussein's 24-year rule. At the famous Firdos Square, troops pulled down Saddam Hussein's statue to celebrate their victory. But even though Saddam Hussein's statue had fallen, finding and capturing the real Saddam Hussein wasn't that easy. Now, finding Saddam and his top government officials was the main goal for the US military. Every US soldier was given full power to capture Saddam and his 51 officials, dead or alive, wherever they were found. There were a total of 52 officials on this most wanted list. To help everyone remember their faces, special playing cards were made with pictures of Saddam Hussein and his 51 officers. Since there are also 52 cards in a deck of playing cards, and there were 52 names on the most wanted list, soldiers would constantly see and remember their targets' faces while playing games during their free time. The hunt for Saddam for the next several months, the US military searched every part of Iraq. Homes were searched, families were questioned, and places like shops, colleges, and mosques were all checked. They only knew that Saddam was in Iraq, but they didn't know exactly where. This continued for many months, but there was no trace of Saddam Hussein or his 2 sons. After this, the US announced that anyone who gave information about Saddam Hussein or his sons would be rewarded with $55 million, $15 million for each of his sons, and $25 million for Saddam Hussein. Many people in Iraq were themselves against Saddam Hussein, and because of this, America believed that for the money alone, some information would come. And that's exactly what happened. A crucial let-on person went to a US military base and said that Saddam Hussein's 2 sons, Uday and Qusay, were at his house. At first, no one believed it, but when the US military surrounded the house, they found that Uday and Qusay were really there. They weren't willing to come out peacefully because they were also fully armed. So, after several attempts, a missile attack was launched on the house. When soldiers entered the house, they found the dead bodies of both Uday and Qusay. This meant that the last hope of finding Saddam Hussein's whereabouts was also gone. However, the US military did not see this as a defeat. On the other hand, several of Saddam Hussein's associates were found and arrested alive, but no information was obtained from anywhere. For months had passed, and the US military started to believe that Saddam Hussein might have died in an attack. Because of this, their efforts began to slow down. There was no military action or intelligence information showing that Saddam was still alive. But then an audio tape changed everything. It was a recording of Saddam Hussein speaking about the loss of his two sons, proving he was still alive. America then increased its search for Saddam, raising the reward on his head from $25 million to $30 million. They also promised U.S. citizenship to whoever gave them information. The big reward made many people try to get involved. Iraqi citizens started giving random tips, hoping they would get the reward if Saddam was caught. However, this made it harder for the U.S. to find him. Almost everyone on the most wanted list had been caught, with only a few left, including Saddam Hussein. The mass goof connection at the same time, Sergeant Eric Maddox from the Defense Intelligence Agency started thinking about a new way to find Saddam. He stopped focusing on the playing cards. He noticed that most people on the wanted list were top government officials under Saddam. Their power came from Saddam, not the other way around. So if anyone was most important to Saddam right now, it would be his bodyguards. These guards were divided into 3 groups. One protected his palace, another cleared areas he was going to, and the third stayed with him all the time. Eric Maddox decided to go to Saddam's hometown, Tikrit, to find these guards, since Saddam would depend on them the most right now. There, he questioned the son of Saddam Hussein's bodyguard, Mohammed Ibrahim Omar, but this bodyguard was also missing. Then he met an old servant of Saddam Hussein, and although he didn't get much specific information, he learned that Saddam loved a dish called maskouf, which is made from fish in Iraq. Here, Maddox remembered that the son of Saddam Hussein's bodyguard, Mohammed Ibrahim Omar, had mentioned during the interrogation that his father loved fishing and owned a fish farm in the city of Samarra. The breakthrough in Maddox arrived at the fish farm. He didn't find Mohammed Ibrahim Omar, but he did meet 2 fishermen. These fishermen weren't directly related to Ibrahim Omar, but one of them was the cousin of an Iraqi guerrilla fighter. It's important to note that after Saddam Hussein's rule ended, his close military officials started a guerrilla war against the American forces. It was believed these guerrilla fighters were acting on instructions from Ibrahim Omar, who was Saddam's closest bodyguard. The fisherman also mentioned an uncle who lived in Baghdad. Maddox and his team surrounded that house in Baghdad, hoping to get some information. Surprisingly, Ibrahim Omar was hiding there. Ibrahim Omar was Saddam Hussein's personal bodyguard, and he often had the maskouf fish dish prepared from his fish farm and sent to Saddam Hussein. He was currently leading a guerrilla war against the American military and knew where Saddam Hussein was hiding. After being arrested, he didn't want to talk at first, but when Maddox interrogated him and promised him and his family U.S. citizenship, he started giving information. The capture Abraham said that Saddam Hussein was hiding in the town of Ad-Daw. Based on his tip, U.S. troops began searching Ad-Daw. There were 2 farmhouses near the Tigris River, but both were empty. At that moment, Ibrahim Omar, who was with the troops, pointed to the ground where a long rope was lying. The rope went underground into a spider hole far away, the entrance to this hole was sealed with styrofoam. When the hole was opened, nothing but darkness was visible inside. Just as a soldier was about to throw a hand grenade inside, 2 hands emerged from the hole. This was a man with a long beard who introduced himself by saying, "My name is Saddam Hussein, and I am the president of Iraq." The American army was able to capture Saddam Hussein while he was still alive. It took 32 weeks of non-stop work. And finally, Eric Maddox's efforts led to his capture. Later, it was found out that if Maddox hadn't discovered that Saddam Hussein enjoyed a dish called maskouf, he might not have been able to get close to him. After the attack on Iraq, there was an accusation that Saddam Hussein was hiding weapons of mass destruction. However, this accusation turned out to be false. American President George Bush also admitted that no such weapons were found.